It's time for the man who's never
boring. The leader of the Reform Party in the UK, and if the polls are right, the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Nigel Farage. Lovely to see you, mate. How you been?
Good to see you. Very well, thank you. Politics very real here. Grooming gangs dominating everything.
Which, of course, this is a story way back when about when local councils wouldn't go there, wouldn't touch it, wouldn't talk about it for fear of offending the parts of the Muslim community. Keir Starmer was back there as the chief prosecutor and sort of involved in some of the light touch responses. You single-handedly was able to bring it back to national attention, force this to become an issue, so much so that there's going to be the proper inquiry now. There's basically no limits, no stone unturned, and we're going to know who looked the other way.
Well, that's the plan, absolutely. And Keir Starmer, having initially said that anybody that wanted a full judicial inquiry with powers was giving a dog whistle to the far right. I mean, gosh, they are so repetitive, these people. Now forced into a U-turn. We're told the inquiry could take up to 3 years, which I think is rather longer than any of us would want. And we've yet to know who the judge or the head of the inquiry is. So it's a step in the right direction. We must not let them wriggle out of doing this properly. Social services turn a blind eye. Police turn a blind eye. Politicians turn a blind eye. And frankly, it's a scandal that I think is looked upon by the rest of the world as a real badge of shame for the UK.
Now, let's turn our attention to the dominant news around the world right now is that we do not know what is just around the corner when it comes to, will the United States give the technology that means we can go to the whole next level here when it comes to trying to make sure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon? We know that this has been something discussed, feared. What are the consequences? How hard, metaphorically, can Iran be punched before there is this sort of point of no return? Personally, I think that it's been proven a few times here that maybe there was greater fear about Iran rather than the reality of their ability to respond. But there is a bunker that needs to be busted, and the only people who can do it, it's going to be the Americans. What do you think?
Well, look, I mean, one of the things that Donald Trump and I first bonded over was Iran policy, the idiocy of Obama, the European Union, the British Foreign Office and government, all doing this deal, this JCPOA deal with Iran just over a decade ago. And what it did, it freed up tens of billions of dollars, much of which they used to fund Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and every terrorist group in the region. So I think what Israel are doing, I'm generally anti-war, Paul. I think going to war really is a last resort. But I don't think Israel, frankly, had much choice. We do not know exactly the level to which at the Natanz facility they've managed to enrich uranium, but it's a pretty long way. But what you say is right. Whilst the above-the-ground facilities have been damaged, the real work that goes on below ground has not been touched over the last couple of days. Yeah, you can take out the TV station, all the rest of it. My sense of this is that Trump has always thought that Iran were potentially the really bad guys. And I personally believe, no inside info, but I personally believe he will give Israel the ability to finish this job.
Yeah, I get that sense, especially obviously stepping out of the G7, basically as soon as he hopped off Air Force One into the Situation Room, and we know that it's daylight right now in not just America but the Middle East as well, and whether that's part of the equation, we'll all find out together. By the way, when I talk about Iran and what was feared versus what has happened. I'm not at all downplaying their funding of terrorism, and I'm not downplaying the brutal regime, none of that whatsoever. What I'm talking about is that obviously anyone having even a mild foreign policy conversation sees that there's one of these red lines, right? And if Israel and Iran and Israel, then are we at some beginning of a point of no return? But I think that Iran has been proven its capacity to hurt Israel has been diminished. Remember a few months ago when it was a swarm of drones, then even when they decided to start throwing things into Tel Aviv, yes, 24 people at least have died, no question, and it's the Iron Dome, not the lack of missiles, that was the result. That's what I'm talking about this, the reality of Iran's ability, but just because it can't wipe out parts of Israel, and nobody would want that, doesn't mean they don't have a network of people and organisations who can do real harm.
Well, yes, they can, of course, but also take this argument on. You know, Iran has had the most brutal, and I use that word advisedly, the most brutal regime now in place for over 40 years. The Persian people have been utterly suppressed, and many of their best people, of course, have left the country. I think this regime is really, really vulnerable. I think whatever happens in the next couple of weeks could see the overthrow of this regime. I noticed that Elon Musk has turned Starlink on in Iran, so the opposition groups now can quite comfortably talk to each other. I would love to see the end of this Iranian regime and something better come in its place. And I think if that happened within a few years, Persians from all over the world would go back to make Iran the great country that it was.
It's all well and good for people rhetorically at a barbecue or even on TV shows at times to have sort of these imaginary red lines, right? And I've got to say, one of the things that I liked about the Trump movement, and certainly sort of the 24 version, was the forever wars conversation, right? Because of the blood and treasure around Iraq and Afghanistan. And obviously, nobody wants Iran to become the next version of those things. But the reality is that if America has the tools and they're at the precipice of being able to break the bad regime, well, maybe those are the moments to act. But you will have no doubt noticed some of the fracturing that has happened in that coalition. Look, Trump's always the centre of it and he'll survive whatever happens. But what are your thoughts about that group that are seemingly annoyed at any upscaling of what's happening in Iran?
Well, I mean, Steve Bannon's a very good friend of mine, but I think he's sort of almost sometimes wanted to sort of shield America from the rest of the world in every way, which of course doesn't actually work anyway because of the interconnections that we have globally. So, yeah, you're going to get a lot of that strong MAGA wing say we shouldn't be involved in any way at all. And look, you know, I mean, I have to say that Afghanistan going on for 20 years, it was never winnable. Yep. Even at the height of the British Empire, twice the British lost wars in Afghanistan, and we'd learnt nothing from it. This is different. This is different. This is not about putting in American troops. It's not about a massive commitment for us. This is an opportunity, a real opportunity to overthrow a truly brutal and evil regime. And it could happen more quickly than you think. That's my view.
Yeah, Nigel, you're an incredible thought leader. Thank you so much for your time. I love these chats and getting to know you even more, along with everyone in this part of the world. Thank you, mate. Nigel Farage, of course, the leader of the Reform Party in the UK.